Brother's wife claimed Grandma's ring, because she's the older son's wife. Grandma left video evidence against her. Update: final court ruling came in. I won. But I'm not sure how to feel about it. I'm sitting in my lawyer's office, staring at the ring in my palm. A Victorian-era piece, circa 1890, with a central sapphire surrounded by old mine-cut diamonds in a yellow-gold setting. The metalwork is exquisite, hand-engraved scrollwork that most people don't even notice unless they know what they're looking for. I know what I'm looking for. It's literally my job. The ring is finally, legally, irrevocably mine. My lawyer is saying something about court costs and filing deadlines, and something about my sister-in-law's attorney requesting an extension that was denied. I should be listening. I should be celebrating. Instead, I'm turning this ring over and over in my fingers, feeling the slight wear on the band where 4 generations of women wore it, and wondering if my grandmother ever imagined it would come to this. I never wanted to go to court against my own family. But she gave me no choice. Ms. Did you hear what I said? I look up. My lawyer is watching me with that careful expression professionals use when they're not sure if their client is about to cry or laugh. I've seen that look a lot over the past 8 months. Sorry. Yes. It's over. It's over. The will stands. The ring is yours. The entire collection is yours. Your sister-in-law's contestation has been formally dismissed, and frankly, after the video evidence you provided, she's lucky your attorney didn't pursue sanctions for frivolous litigation. I slide the ring onto my finger. It fits perfectly. It always has. Thank you, I say, and I mean it, but the words feel hollow. I won. So why does victory taste like ash? Flashback: 6 years ago. My grandmother's hands were a roadmap of her life. 91 years of gardening, cooking, raising 4 children, burying a husband, and outliving most of her friends, all of it written in the lines and spots on her skin. But her fingers were still nimble. Still strong. I watched her slide the sapphire ring off and hold it up to the window, letting the afternoon light catch the stones. Your great-great-grandmother received this ring on her wedding day in Dublin, she said. 1891. Can you imagine? She was 17 years old, marrying a man she'd met 3 times. She wore this ring across the Atlantic, through Ellis Island, through the tenements of New York. She wore it while she buried 2 children to influenza. She wore it until the day she died, and then it went to her daughter, and then to her daughter, and then to me. I was 23 then, fresh out of my jewelry restoration certification program, full of dreams about opening my own studio someday. My grandmother was the reason I'd chosen this path. She'd started teaching me about antique jewelry when I was 6 years old, letting me look through her collection with a child's magnifying glass, telling me stories about each piece. Grandma, you've told me this story 100 times. I know. She smiled, those sharp blue eyes, still clear then, always clear, crinkling at the corners. But I need you to remember it. I need you to remember that this ring isn't just metal and stones. It's survival. It's legacy. It's every woman in this family who refused to give up. She pressed the ring into my palm. It's going to be yours someday. You're the only one who understands what it means. Promise me you'll take care of it. I promise. She nodded, satisfied. Good. Now help me catalog the rest of these pieces. Your mother thinks I should sell the Victorian mourning brooch, but she has no appreciation for sentiment. My grandmother was right about that. My mother loved her, but she'd never shared her passion for old things. Neither had my brother. He was 3 years older than me, already married by then, focused on his career in finance and his new wife's plans for their future. He'd been at our grandmother's house maybe 5 times in as many years. But I was there every Sunday. Every holiday. Every time she needed someone to help her polish the silver or reorganize her jewelry boxes or just sit and listen to her stories. I was there because I wanted to be, not because I had to be. I think that's the part my sister-in-law never understood. You can't inherit love. You have to earn it. Flashback: 2 years ago. My grandmother's decline was gradual, then sudden, the way these things often are. 1 month she was sharp as a tack, correcting my technique on a delicate Edwardian repair I'd brought to show her. The next, she was forgetting to eat, leaving the stove on, calling me by my mother's name. Not dementia. The doctors were clear about that. It was the cancer, spreading to her brain, muddling her thoughts. But there were good days and bad days, and on the good days, she was still herself. Still fierce. Still stubborn. Still absolutely certain about what she wanted. I need you to film this, she said one afternoon, about 6 months before the end. It was a good day. She was sitting up in bed, her white hair brushed and pinned back, wearing her favorite blue cardigan. She'd asked me to bring her jewelry box. Film what? Me. Explaining. I know what's going to happen when I'm gone, sweetheart. I've watched this family long enough. Your brother's wife has been eyeing this collection since their wedding day, and she's going to make trouble. I wanted to argue. I wanted to tell her she was being paranoid. But I'd seen the way my sister-in-law looked at my grandmother's rings. I'd heard her comments about family heirlooms, and proper traditions, and what belongs to the eldest son's household. My grandmother knew her own family better than I did. That's why she made me film those videos. When I die, my grandmother said, looking directly into my phone camera, her voice steady and clear, I want my granddaughter to have my sapphire ring. I've told her this since she was a child. It's not about money or tradition or who married whom. It's about who understands. She's a jewelry restorer. She's dedicated her life to preserving beautiful old things. She'll take care of this ring the way it deserves to be cared for. That's my wish, and I'm of sound mind when I say it. The date is March 15th, the current president is, she named him, and I had oatmeal with blueberries for breakfast. I'm not confused. I know exactly what I'm doing. She made me film 3 more videos over the following months. In each one, she stated the date, current events, personal details only she would know. She was building a case. Preparing evidence for a battle she knew was coming. Why are you doing this? I asked her once, after a particularly long recording session. She reached out and touched my cheek, her hand cool and paper-thin. Because I love you. And because I know what that woman is capable of. She's not evil, sweetheart. She's desperate. She grew up with nothing, and she married your brother thinking she was marrying into something. She's been disappointed ever since. The ring represents everything she thought she was getting and didn't. She'll fight for it because she doesn't know how to stop fighting for things. That doesn't make it right. No, it doesn't. But understanding why someone does something helps you predict what they'll do. Remember that. I've remembered it every day since. Flashback, the death. My grandmother died on a Tuesday in October. I was holding her hand. The hospice nurse had called that morning to say it was time, and I dropped everything. Left a half-restored Art Deco bracelet on my workbench, canceled 2 client meetings, to be there. My mother arrived an hour later. My father, stoic and silent, sat in the corner. My brother came in the evening, apologizing for the delay, something about a meeting he couldn't reschedule. His wife didn't come at all. She sends her love, my brother said, not meeting anyone's eyes. She's not good with this kind of thing. I didn't answer. I was watching my grandmother's chest rise and fall, each breath shallower than the last. She hadn't opened her eyes in hours, but when I squeezed her hand, her fingers twitched. She knew I was there. She died at 11:47 p.m. Peaceful. Expected. Loved. I cried into my mother's shoulder while my father went to find the nurse. My brother stood by the window, hands in his pockets, looking out at the darkness. I remember thinking, this is how it ends. 91 years of living, and it ends in a quiet room with bad lighting and 3 generations crying into tissues. I didn't think about the ring. Not then. Not in those first raw hours. There would be time for that later, too much time, as it turned out. Update 1. The will reading. The will reading happened 2 weeks after the funeral. My grandmother's attorney, a patient man who'd known her for decades, gathered us in his office on a gray November afternoon. My parents, my brother, his wife, me. All of us in black, still wearing our grief like ill-fitting clothes. My grandmother had been meticulous. Everything was outlined, every item accounted for. The house went to my parents. Financial assets were split between her children and grandchildren in carefully calculated portions. Her book collection went to the local library. Her garden tools went to her neighbor who'd helped her plant roses every spring for 20 years. And then, to my granddaughter, I leave my complete collection of antique jewelry, including the Victorian sapphire ring that has been in our family for 4 generations. She has the expertise to preserve these pieces and the heart to honor their history. This bequest is made with full knowledge and intention, as documented in supplementary video recordings held in my safety deposit box. I felt my sister-in-law go rigid beside me. The attorney continued reading, but I wasn't listening anymore. I was watching my sister-in-law's face cycle through shock, disbelief, and finally, rage, barely contained behind a tight smile. After the reading, my parents went to speak with the attorney about the house. My brother wandered to the parking lot to take a phone call, which left me alone with his wife. "Well," she said, her voice perfectly pleasant, perfectly controlled. "That was unexpected." Was it? She turned to look at me. We'd never been close, polite at holidays, cordial at family gatherings, but never close. She was from a different world, one where family heirlooms meant generational wealth, not sentimental value. She'd grown up in a small apartment with a single mother who worked 2 jobs. She'd put herself through school on scholarships and loans. When she married my brother, she'd thought she was marrying into something. Old money. Prestige. Tradition. Instead, she got a middle-class family with delusions of grandeur and one genuinely valuable piece of jewelry that she wasn't getting. Your grandmother was very specific in her wishes, she said carefully. She was. It's just, in most families, heirlooms like that go to the eldest son. Or his wife. It's tradition. Whose tradition? Her smile flickered. The ring should stay in the main family line. It should go to someone who'll pass it on to their children. You're not even married. Neither is the ring required to be. It's mine. Grandma wanted me to have it. Grandma was 91 years old and sick. People that age get confused. They get manipulated by whoever is spending the most time with them. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Here it was. The first shot fired. Are you calling me a manipulator? I'm just saying. She adjusted her purse on her shoulder, still smiling that terrible smile. Some people might question whether a woman that ill really knew what she was doing when she changed her will. She didn't change her will. She'd planned this for years. And she wasn't confused. She was the sharpest person I've ever known. We'll see. She walked away, heels clicking on the marble floor. I stood there, the November light weak through the windows, and I knew. I knew exactly what was coming. My grandmother had tried to prepare me, but I wasn't ready. Not really. You're never ready to go to war with your own family. Update 2, the campaign. My sister-in-law didn't wait long to make her move. Within a week, I started getting calls from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. Distant aunts. Second cousins. Old family friends. All of them had heard some version of the story. Poor thing, she married into the family expecting to receive the family heirloom, and then the younger sister swooped in and took everything. The grandmother was basically senile at the end, you know. So sad. So unfair. Then came the social media posts. She never named me directly, she was too smart for that. But she didn't need to. Family drama is the worst, she wrote, alongside a photo of my grandmother from happier times. When you marry into a family, you expect to be treated like family. But some people are just takers. Some people don't understand the meaning of tradition. The comments were predictable. Sympathy, outrage, offers of support. Her friends, her co-workers, her book club, all of them rallied around her, united against the unnamed villain who'd stolen her rightful inheritance. I called my brother. Can you please talk to her? This is getting out of hand. He sighed, that familiar sound of a man who'd rather be anywhere else. I don't want to get involved in women's drama. This isn't women's drama. Your wife is publicly accusing me of manipulating our dying grandmother. She's upset. The ring meant a lot to her. The ring wasn't hers. It was never going to be hers. Grandma was clear about that. Another sigh. Look, I wasn't there. I don't know what Grandma said or didn't say. Maybe if you just let her have the ring, this would all go away. Is it really worth tearing the family apart? I stared at the phone in disbelief. My own brother. My own blood. Asking me to surrender. She's not going to win this, I said. Grandma left me those pieces because I was the one who cared about them. Because I was the one who was there. Where were you, by the way? Where were you when she was dying? I had responsibilities. A job. A wife. I couldn't just drop everything. I dropped everything. Every single time. 4 years. And you want me to give that up because your wife throws tantrums on Facebook? He hung up on me. I didn't call back. Update 3. The legal battle. The formal will contestation came 6 weeks after the funeral. My sister-in-law's lawyer sent a notice to my grandmother's estate claiming that the decedent had lacked testamentary capacity at the time the will was executed, and that she had been subject to undue influence by a beneficiary, namely me. I remember reading the words on my laptop screen at 2 a.m., too wired to sleep, the cold language of it all making me physically sick. Lack of capacity. Undue influence. They were calling my grandmother incompetent. They were calling me a predator. I called my own lawyer the next morning. They'll need to prove she wasn't of sound mind, she explained, her voice calm and professional. Medical records, testimony from caregivers, that sort of thing. Your grandmother was lucid for most of her illness. The cancer affected her cognitive function intermittently, but her doctors documented good days and bad days. The key question is what state she was in when the will was signed. She signed the current version 3 years ago. She was completely healthy then. Good. That helps. But they'll also claim that she intended to change it and was prevented from doing so. She didn't want to change it. She told me exactly what she wanted. Can you prove that? I thought about my phone. About 4 videos, carefully filmed over 6 months. My grandmother, lucid and fierce, staring into the camera and daring anyone to call her confused. Yes, I said. I can prove that. The legal process was everything I'd been warned about. Slow, expensive, emotionally devastating. We filed responses, collected evidence, gave depositions. My sister-in-law's lawyer was aggressive. He tried to paint me as isolated, obsessed with my grandmother's wealth, desperate to secure an inheritance. He brought up my financial struggles in my early 20s, my failed engagement, my small studio apartment. He implied that I'd cultivated my grandmother's affection specifically to secure the jewelry collection. He had no idea what he was dealing with. When it was time to present our evidence, my lawyer played the first video in the conference room. My grandmother's voice filled the space, clear and strong. I'm leaving my sapphire ring to my granddaughter because she's earned it. Not with money, not with schemes, but with love and patience and Sunday afternoons when she could have been anywhere else. She's never asked me for a thing. She just wanted to learn, to listen, to be here. That's more than I can say for some people. I'm of sound mind. I know exactly what I'm doing. And if anyone tries to take this from her, I want them to know, I see you. I've always seen you. And I made sure my granddaughter would be protected. My sister-in-law's face went white. We played all 4 videos. We presented medical records showing my grandmother's cognitive state. We brought in the hospice nurse who'd been with her at the end, who testified that she was alert and oriented during her final weeks, fully aware of who was in the room and who wasn't. The judge ruled in my favor. The will was valid. The contestation was dismissed. I won. Update 4. The aftermath. Victory should feel better than this. It's been 3 months since the ruling. The ring is on my finger right now as I type this. My grandmother's entire collection sits in a climate-controlled case in my studio, each piece cleaned and preserved and loved. I've started a project cataloging everything, photographing each item, documenting its history, writing down the stories my grandmother told me. Someday, maybe, I'll donate the collection to a museum. Or pass it down to someone who cares the way I do. But the cost. God, the cost. My brother won't speak to me. He blocked my number the day after the ruling. I've seen him once, at my mother's birthday dinner, and he looked through me like I was made of glass. His wife sat beside him, subdued, defeated, but defiant in her silence. She didn't apologize. She never will. My parents have tried to stay neutral, which feels worse than if they'd taken a side. You're both our children, my mother says, whenever I bring it up. We can't choose between you. But by not choosing, they've chosen. They've chosen peace over justice, comfort over truth. They've chosen to let my brother's silence stand unopposed. Family holidays are awkward now. We sit in the same room, eating the same food, pretending the last year didn't happen. My sister-in-law has stopped with the social media posts, too humiliating after the video evidence came out, but I see the way she looks at my hand. At the ring. Sometimes I catch her staring, and I don't look away. I let her see it. Let her remember. Sometimes I wonder if the ring was worth losing my brother. Then I remember, I didn't lose him. He chose her side. There's a difference. He could have stayed neutral. He could have said, I don't know what Grandma wanted, but I trust her decision. He could have defended me when his wife started her campaign. He didn't. He chose to step back, to let it happen, to wash his hands of the whole mess while his wife dragged our grandmother's memory through the mud. I didn't lose my brother. He never showed up. Update 5. Moving forward. It's been 6 months now since the final ruling. I've had time to process, to grieve, to make peace with what happened. I wear the ring every day now. Not because it's beautiful, it is, but because giving it up would mean she won. And my grandmother didn't raise me to surrender. When I touch the smooth gold band, I think about my great-great-grandmother at 17, crossing an ocean with nothing but hope and a ring on her finger. I think about every woman in my family who wore this piece, who survived whatever life threw at them, who refused to give up. I'm part of that chain now. I'm carrying the weight and the honor. My grandmother knew this would happen. That's why she made me film those videos. She knew her family, knew the fault lines, the tensions, the unspoken resentments. She knew her grandson had married someone desperate for belonging, Someone who'd see an heirloom as proof of acceptance. And she knew that desperation could turn dangerous. So she prepared. She documented. She armed me with evidence I didn't even know I'd need. I've thought a lot about my sister-in-law these past months. About why she did what she did. She wasn't evil. My grandmother was right about that. She was a woman who'd grown up poor, who'd fought for everything she had, who'd married into a family expecting certain traditions, certain rewards. She genuinely believed that firstborn son's wife had meaning, had weight, had legal standing. She was wrong. But her entitlement came from somewhere real. It came from all those years of not having enough, of watching other people inherit things she'd never receive. I can understand her without forgiving her. I can see where she came from without excusing where she went. She's still with my brother. They're trying to have a baby, according to my mother, as if a child could fix whatever's broken in their marriage. I hope they don't. I hope they heal first. I hope they learn that you can't build a family on grievance and resentment. As for me, I'm okay. More than okay, actually. My restoration business has grown. I've taken on clients from around the country, people who find me specifically because they want someone who understands the weight of what they're preserving. Last month, I restored a mourning ring from 1820, jet and pearls and a tiny lock of hair under glass. The owner cried when I gave it back to her, perfect and gleaming. "You've given me back my great-grandmother," she said. "That's why I do this work. That's why my grandmother gave me her collection. Because I understand that jewelry isn't about money or status. It's about connection. Memory. Love." The sapphire ring catches the light as I type, blue fire dancing in the old stones. 4 generations of my family have worn this ring. 4 generations of women who survived and struggled and loved. I'm the 5th. And when my time comes, I'll choose carefully who comes next. Not the firstborn son's wife. Not tradition. Not entitlement. Someone who cares. Someone who shows up. Someone who earns it. My grandmother would want it that way. Final thoughts. I never wanted to go to court against my own family. The legal fees nearly bankrupted me. The stress affected my health, my sleep, my ability to work. There were nights I lay awake wondering if I should have just given in, just handed over the ring, just kept the peace. But peace built on surrender isn't peace. It's defeat. And my grandmother didn't spend 3 years preparing for this fight just so I could fold at the first sign of pressure. I won the ring. I lost my brother, or maybe I just finally saw who he always was. I damaged my relationship with my parents in ways that may never fully heal. I spent months mired in legal proceedings, reliving my grandmother's death over and over for lawyers and judges and strangers. Was it worth it? I look at the ring on my finger. I think about my grandmother's face in those videos, fierce and clear and determined to protect me even from beyond the grave. I think about my great-great-grandmother at 17, crossing an ocean, wearing this same piece. Yes. It was worth it. The victory wasn't hollow after all. It was just heavy. Some victories are like that. They cost you things you didn't know you'd have to pay, and they leave you standing alone in places you didn't expect to be. But I'm still standing. And I'm still wearing my grandmother's ring. That's enough. That's everything. TLDR, my grandmother left me her antique sapphire ring. I'm a professional jewelry restorer and was close to her. My sister-in-law claimed she should get it as the firstborn son's wife, and tried to contest the will, claiming Grandma had dementia. I had video evidence of Grandma, totally lucid, explaining exactly why she wanted me to have it. I won in court, but lost my relationship with my brother and damaged things with my parents. The ring is mine. I wear it every day. I have complicated feelings about everything except the ring itself. Here's what I learned from going to court against my own family. Some things are worth fighting for, even when the fight costs you everything else. My grandmother knew this would happen. She knew her family, the fault lines, the tensions, the daughter-in-law who saw an heirloom as proof of belonging she'd never received. She knew that desperation could turn dangerous. So she prepared. She filmed videos. She armed me with evidence I didn't even know I'd need. She protected me from beyond the grave. That's the kind of love that doesn't fit in a will. I never wanted to go to court against my own family. The legal fees nearly bankrupted me. The stress affected my health, my sleep, my ability to work. There were nights I lay awake wondering if I should have just given in. Just handed over the ring. Just kept the peace. But peace built on surrender isn't peace. It's defeat. And my grandmother didn't spend 3 years preparing for this fight just so I could fold at the first sign of pressure. My sister-in-law wasn't evil. My grandmother was right about that too. She was a woman who'd grown up poor, who'd fought for everything she had, who'd married into a family expecting traditions and rewards that didn't exist. She genuinely believed firstborn son's wife meant something. She was wrong. But her entitlement came from somewhere real, from all those years of not having enough, of watching other people inherit things she'd never receive. I can understand her without forgiving her. I can see where she came from without excusing where she went. Sometimes I wonder if the ring was worth losing my brother. Then I remember, I didn't lose him. He chose her side. He chose to call this women's drama. He chose to ask me to surrender because it would be easier for him. He chose to block my number the day after I won. I didn't lose my brother. He never showed up. Not when grandmother was dying. Not when his wife was dragging her memory through the mud. Not once. My parents tried to stay neutral, which feels worse than if they'd taken a side. By not choosing, they chose. They chose peace over justice, comfort over truth. But I'm still standing. And I'm still wearing my grandmother's ring. 4 generations of women wore this ring. 4 generations who survived and struggled and refused to give up. I'm the 5th. And when my time comes, I'll choose carefully who comes next. Not the firstborn son's wife. Not tradition. Not entitlement. Someone who cares. Someone who shows up. Someone who earns it. You can't inherit love. You have to earn it. My grandmother understood that. She left me this ring not because of blood or tradition, but because I was the one who was there. Every Sunday. Every holiday. Every time she needed someone. The victory wasn't hollow. It was just heavy. Some victories are like that. They cost you things you didn't know you'd have to pay. But I'm still here. Still preserving beautiful old things. Still carrying the weight and the honor. My grandmother would want it that way.